Liberal TV host fired after shocking comments about Karoline Leavitt in a stunning turn of events. A well-known liberal television host has been abruptly fired following controversial and inflammatory remarks about Karoline Leavitt, a rising conservative political figure. The incident, which has ignited heated debates across the media landscape, underscores the growing tensions in America's polarized political climate. The incident that sparked outrage, the controversy erupted during a live broadcast of The Progressive View, a popular left-leaning news and commentary program known for its sharp critiques of conservative politicians. The show's host, Daniel Whitmore, a veteran political analyst with a reputation for his blunt takes, crossed a line that even his network could not tolerate. During a heated discussion about Leavitt's growing influence in the Republican Party, Whitmore launched into an unexpected and deeply personal tirade. Karoline Leavitt represents everything wrong with today's right-wing extremism, he said. She's nothing more than a puppet for MAGA lunacy, spewing dangerous rhetoric with a smile. Frankly, I find it terrifying that someone like her is given a platform at all. What truly sent shockwaves, however, was what came next. Seemingly unable to contain his frustration, Whitmore added, "Frankly, people like her are a threat to democracy, and if she had any integrity, she'd just disappear from the political stage altogether." The moment the words left his mouth, the air in the studio turned tense. His co-hosts exchanged nervous glances, and a producer could be seen gesturing frantically off-screen. Social media exploded within minutes, with viewers on both sides of the political spectrum reacting in disbelief. While some progressive viewers defended Whitmore's critique, others felt he had taken things too far. Conservative commentators quickly seized on the comments, calling them a veiled threat against Leavitt and an example of the left's alleged intolerance. The network's response as the backlash intensified, the network, an influential liberal-leaning news organization, found itself in an uncomfortable position. Calls for Whitmore's termination flooded social media, with prominent conservative figures demanding accountability. By the next morning, the network's executives held an emergency meeting. Just hours later, they issued a statement: "We take journalistic integrity and respectful discourse seriously." The recent comments made by Daniel Whitmore on The Progressive View were unacceptable and do not reflect the values of our organization. Effective immediately, Mr. Whitmore is no longer affiliated with our network. The announcement sent shockwaves through the media industry. Some of Whitmore's supporters argued that his firing was a capitulation to conservative outrage, while others conceded that his remarks had indeed crossed a line. Karoline Leavitt responds. Leavitt, a vocal advocate for conservative policies and a frequent target of liberal critics, wasted no time responding to the controversy. In a statement posted on X, formerly Twitter, she wrote, "I've spent my career fighting for free speech, even when it's directed at me. But when a so-called journalist openly suggests that I should disappear, it shows just how far the radical left is willing to go to silence conservative voices. I will not be intimidated." Her response was met with strong support from conservative circles, with many viewing the incident as proof of media bias and hostility toward right-wing figures. The fallout and broader implications Whitmore's firing has reignited a larger debate about media ethics, political discourse, and the boundaries of free speech. Some believe the network acted appropriately by holding one of its own accountable, while others argue that Whitmore's removal was a sign of increasing corporate censorship. The incident has also deepened the divide between liberals and conservatives, with each side interpreting the event through their own ideological lens. To some, Whitmore is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked political rhetoric. To others, he is a martyr for progressive truth-telling, sacrificed to appease conservative outrage. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt's profile has only grown in the wake of the controversy. Far from being silenced, she has used the moment to rally her supporters, positioning herself as a fighter against media bias. As for Whitmore, sources close to him say he is considering his next move, with rumors swirling about a potential independent media venture. Whether this controversy will mark the end of his career or the beginning of a new chapter remains to be seen. One thing is certain: the debate over political discourse in America is far from over. The aftermath, media firestorm and public reactions in the days following Daniel Whitmore's dismissal, the controversy only escalated. Conservative media outlets seized on the incident, portraying it as yet another example of liberal hypocrisy, where left-leaning figures claimed to champion free speech but shut down dissenting voices, even among their own ranks. Meanwhile, progressive circles were deeply divided. Some defended Whitmore, arguing that he was merely expressing frustration over what they saw as dangerous right-wing populism. Others condemned his words, acknowledging that he had crossed a line by suggesting that a political opponent should disappear. Late-night talk shows, political podcasts, and social media platforms became battlegrounds for heated debates about media accountability, free speech, and the limits of political commentary. Hashtags such as #WhitmoreFired, #StandWithCaroline, and #MediaBias trended for days. Adding fuel to the fire, a clip of Whitmore's outburst resurfaced with added captions highlighting his most controversial phrases. Conservative influencers called for further scrutiny of media figures who, in their view, engage in veiled calls for the silencing of right-wing voices. Some even suggested that Whitmore's words were an incitement of political violence. On the flip side, progressive activists pointed out the irony of conservative outrage, citing past instances where right-wing commentators had used inflammatory language against liberal politicians without facing similar consequences. The incident became yet another flashpoint in the ongoing culture war between the left and right. Whitmore speaks out after several days of silence. Daniel Whitmore finally addressed the controversy. In an exclusive interview with an independent digital news outlet, he expressed regret over the phrasing of his remarks but remained defiant about his broader criticisms of Leavitt. "Look, I got caught up in the heat of the moment. Was my wording poor? Yes. Do I think Karoline Leavitt represents a dangerous strain of far-right extremism? Absolutely. But let's not pretend that the right isn't full of people who say far worse things on a daily basis and face no consequences." Whitmore went on to accuse the network of using him as a scapegoat. "They fired me not because of what I said, but because they're afraid of conservative backlash." This wasn't about journalistic integrity, it was about protecting corporate interests. His supporters quickly rallied behind him, with some urging him to start his own independent media platform. Others floated the idea of Whitmore joining a progressive streaming network or launching a podcast to continue his unfiltered political commentary. Karoline Leavitt's rise in popularity. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt found herself at the center of an unexpected political boost. The controversy had not only elevated her profile but also positioned her as a fighter against liberal media bias. Appearing on several major conservative platforms, Leavitt capitalized on the moment to push her political message. "This just proves what we've been saying for years," she declared during an interview on Fox News. "The mainstream media despises conservative women. They don't just want to debate us, they want to erase us. But I will not be silenced." Her supporters flooded social media with messages of encouragement, some even calling for her to run for higher office. Political analysts noted that the controversy had inadvertently strengthened her standing among the Republican base, making her a more formidable figure within conservative circles. Corporate media's dilemma. The network's decision to fire Whitmore sent shockwaves through the broader media industry. Executives at other major news outlets reportedly held internal discussions about how to handle similar situations in the future. Was Whitmore's firing a necessary step in maintaining journalistic standards, or had the network caved to political pressure? Several liberal journalists publicly voiced concerns that the decision set a dangerous precedent. If networks continued to punish commentators for controversial statements, they argued, it could lead to a chilling effect on political discourse. Others countered that media personalities, regardless of their political leanings, had a responsibility to choose their words carefully. In response to the backlash, the network's CEO released a follow-up statement, emphasizing that Whitmore's firing was not about politics but professionalism. "Our organization supports strong, passionate journalism. However, we also hold our commentators to a high standard of ethical discourse." Mr. Whitmore's remarks failed to meet those standards, and we stand by our decision. Despite the network's efforts to move on, the controversy continued to dominate headlines. The political fallout in Washington, politicians from both sides weighed in on the incident. Conservative lawmakers called for greater scrutiny of media organizations, arguing that the firing exposed the left's internal contradictions on free speech. Some progressives, however, argued that the real issue was the weaponization of media outrage. A handful of Democratic representatives voiced concerns that Whitmore's firing played into a right-wing narrative of victimhood and suppression, potentially emboldening figures like Leavitt. What's next for Whitmore and Leavitt? As the dust settles, both figures find themselves at pivotal crossroads. For Daniel Whitmore, the controversy may serve as either a career-ending scandal or the beginning of a new chapter in independent media. Insiders suggest that he has received offers from progressive media startups, and some speculate that he could even partner with a major streaming service to launch a new show. For Karoline Leavitt, the incident has cemented her status as a rising star in conservative politics. With a surge in fundraising and a growing base of supporters, she may use this momentum to launch a bid for higher office, perhaps even setting her sights on a future congressional or gubernatorial run. A sign of the times. Ultimately, the Whitmore-Leavitt controversy is about more than just one TV host remarks. It reflects the broader state of American political discourse. The boundaries of free speech, the power of media, and the deepening ideological divide continue to shape the national conversation. One thing is certain: in the modern political arena, even a single moment can change the trajectory of careers and, perhaps, the course of history. The long-term impact. A changing media and political landscape. As the controversy surrounding Daniel Whitmore's firing fades from the immediate headlines, its impact continues to ripple through both the media industry and the political world. The incident has left lasting scars on public discourse, raising fundamental questions about where the line should be drawn between free speech, media accountability, and political rhetoric. Whitmore's next move. After weeks of speculation, Daniel Whitmore finally announced his next move: the launch of his own independent media platform, Unfiltered Progress. Positioned as an alternative to mainstream liberal media, the platform promises to deliver raw, unapologetic journalism without corporate censorship. In his first official statement about the venture, Whitmore took direct aim at his former employers. The days of corporate-controlled media dictating what we can and cannot say are over. The people deserve the truth, without fear, without restrictions, and without the influence of powerful interests that want to control the narrative. The announcement was met with mixed reactions. His loyal supporters cheered his decision, seeing it as a bold stand against corporate media suppression. Critics, however, accused him of capitalizing on the controversy to build a personal brand, with some even comparing him to right-wing figures who have similarly gone independent after facing backlash. Despite the division, Unfiltered Progress quickly gained traction. Within days, its YouTube channel amassed hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and its first live-streamed episode shattered viewership expectations. Whitmore had successfully turned a career-ending scandal into a new opportunity. Karoline Leavitt's political ascendancy. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt has fully embraced her newfound political momentum. In the wake of the controversy, she embarked on a national tour, speaking at conservative conferences, fundraising events, and grassroots rallies. With each speech, she emphasized her status as a target of media bias, using the Whitmore incident as a rallying cry against what she calls the left's war on conservative voices. The liberal elites in the media wanted to silence me, but instead, they made me stronger. They made us stronger. And I promise you this: I will never back down. Her rising popularity has fueled speculation that she may soon announce a bid for higher office. Some political insiders predict she will run for Congress, while others believe she has her sights set on a governorship or even a future presidential campaign. A culture war that shows no signs of slowing beyond the individuals involved. The Whitmore-Leavitt controversy serves as yet another chapter in America's ongoing culture war. The clash between liberal and conservative media, the debate over free speech, and the role of corporate influence in journalism have all been brought to the forefront. For conservatives, Whitmore's firing validated their long-standing belief that mainstream media outlets operate under double standards, punishing liberals only when it's politically convenient. For progressives, the incident exposed the difficulty of navigating ethical journalism in an era of outrage-driven politics. Final reflections, lessons from the firestorm. In the end, both Whitmore and Leavitt emerged from the controversy stronger in their respective arenas. Whitmore, once a mainstream media star, now leads a growing independent movement. Leavitt, once a rising conservative figure, is now a full-fledged political powerhouse. Their clash symbolized more than just a personal feud. It was a reflection of the deeper ideological battle shaping America's future. As the dust settles, one truth remains: in the modern media landscape, controversy is no longer a career-ending catastrophe, it is a launchpad. And in an era where political divisions are sharper than ever, figures like Whitmore and Leavitt are not just survivors of controversy. They are its beneficiaries. The fight for control of the narrative is far from over.